course, with rain in the closing stages. Brad Binder on a tightrope stuck it out on slicks. Well, as mentioned a moment ago, Jorge Martin set to start from the front row of the grid today. He's lining up second on the grid. Let's get some pre-race thoughts from him with Simon.
Jorge, thanks for coming out of the garage and talking to us. You've looked great at the first two opening races, you know, really competitive at both, looking really good here. I heard you say that you felt good in the dry coming into this race. Tell us about how your weekend's gone until now.
Yeah, sure. From the first moment out on the track, for sure when there were some mixed conditions, I was struggling a little bit to get the confidence, but when it was full dry, I was really competitive. Our main issue was to find the perfect rear tire. This was the main problem for today, but afterwards, when they reduced the race 20 laps, we were going to put the soft. But in the first case, we were going to put the medium. So I was confident and focused on the last, 7-8 laps. But finally, yeah, raining. We need to wait. The problem is that we didn't try. But I mean, I hear that there's a lot of grip here. In wet conditions, I feel great with my Ducati. And I'm expecting, yeah, let's see if we can race. And if we can race for sure, I think we can be up in the front.
Jorge, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Jorge Martin. Always good of him to come and have a chat, of course. These riders will be feeling the tension. Always difficult scenario when you're not quite sure when you're going to get the call to arms and have to go out and race in these, well, at the moment, treacherous conditions. We can see the safety car. Wow, there's just been a massive bolt of lightning light up the grey and gloomy sky outside of our commentary box. You can probably hear as well. We can, through our headsets, yet more big claps of thunder. I feel so sorry for the organisers here in Mandalika, of course. There's been so much work behind the scenes, not just over the last few months or so, over many years, to bring MotoGP back to this part of the world. Friday night and Saturday night, I was looking at the rehearsals for the new grid ceremony, which we saw for the first time in MotoGP in Qatar, where we get to see the Tower of the Champions Tower Trophy, the race-winning prize here in Mandalika, of course. The president himself is present here today and was going to be part of that special new grid ceremony. Unfortunately, these torrential rain conditions have curtailed all that. Such a shame for so many people. Lewis, of course, you've got to understand and get a taste of just how popular MotoGP is in this part of the world. You attended that amazing pre-event where the riders did a parade in downtown Jakarta. It was like Beatlemania. It was like the Rolling Stones were in town. These guys are treated like rock stars. Whoa! Well, we said that there was some claps of thunder and bolts of lightning. What a get that is by our camera crews out on circuit. We should give actually a special mention to our camera operators as well, because
rather you than me, guys.
Absolutely, what a shot that was. That just gives you an idea of just how troublesome the weather is proving here. But yeah, coming back to the pre-event, Lewis, you were pleasured enough to be there and witness firsthand just how massively popular MotoGP here is in this part of the world. It really was like Beatlemania. Look at that, off in the distance. We are getting the thunderstorms that were forecast.
Yes, it's a spectacular sight, although not the spectacular sight that I think anyone wanted to watch.
Our now is actually shaking because this thunder is so fierce.
Yeah, I was about to say, the parade that we saw on Wednesday was like nothing I've ever experienced. Neither was that. The feeling under our shoes in this commentary box, which was shaking with this electrical storm. Yeah, it was a tremendous day on Wednesday, it has to be said. The reception the riders got was like nothing I've ever experienced. The parade that took place early that morning in Jakarta from the President's Palace, the riders got to meet the President here of Indonesia and have some breakfast with him before they headed off through the streets. And I spoke about this earlier on in the weekend. There was a real Tour de France sort of vibe to it, with the fans lining the side of the road, with the ability to give high fives and fist bumps to the riders. They put on a great show as well for the fans who came out to watch. We saw Marc Marquez, Pecco Bagnaia, Jack Miller doing burnouts and giving them some real entertainment. And you just got the impression that this was amongst the best experience of some of these people's lives. They really do live and breathe MotoGP in this part of the world. Perhaps only football rivals MotoGP and motorcycle racing as a whole for popularity in this part of the world. They really do get behind it, and it's fitting that MotoGP does race in this part of the world. And yeah, the reception the riders got was incredible. Paul Espargaro spoke, as you mentioned a moment ago, that they felt like rock stars coming through the city centre, and were then essentially mobbed when they got to the nearby Kempinski Hotel where the parade came to a close. It was a memorable start to this week in Indonesia. The welcome we've had from the locals and from the organisers has been absolutely top-notch. As you say, they've put in an enormous amount of work to really bring this circuit up to standard, right the way from the pre-season test. Even in the last month, they've really done a lot of hard work on the infrastructure around here, the roads around the circuit, the grandstands. Even a month ago, this circuit was unrecognisable to what we have now. They really have done a tremendous job as well with the track surface. It's perhaps not the ultimate solution that we want, but it is certainly a step in the right direction.
So Aleix Espargaro and Alex Rins, all they can do is play the waiting game and hope for a break in this weather. As we said, those thunderclaps are getting so ferocious. Our commentary box was literally shaking. That's no exaggeration. I'm actually relieved that our dear colleague Amy Reynolds is actually not here. She's pretty fond of the old thunder. I hope you're well back in the UK, Amy. Of course, we're looking forward to hockey.
Together, and what it's like sitting here about to go out in a wet race soon, and you've never ridden in full wet. So tell us about those things.
Well, I was so happy about yesterday because from Qatar we did a great step on the setup of the bike, and I was really confident, especially on the front, so I could push really hard on the, especially in the qualifying for time attack. Honestly, in Q2 I was not, let's say, 100% because I did the FP3, FP4, Q1 also in Q2, so it was a bit tired, honestly. For this also, I couldn't reply the 31.6 of the Q1, but yeah, it was a great lap, honestly. I was super happy. About that, and yeah, I'm here waiting. Honestly, it's a pity that at the moment we cannot race because the conditions are what they are, but all the modifyings for the wet. But honestly, I don't have any feedbacks. Also, then said to me, go out and enjoy because we don't know anything. So also for me, it will be my first time, and yeah, I'm waiting.
Fabio, thank you for your time. Good luck this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Scenes you didn't expect to see at 3:15 on race day Sunday at the Indonesian Grand Prix. The entire pit lane is giving this lady an audience here.
Well, to be honest, let's hope this works. Apparently this is a local rain ritual.
Desperate times and all
banish
that.
away these clouds. Let's hope this lady's efforts pay off, because we all want to see a MotoGP race take place here in Indonesia.
Well, if the rain stops and we do get a race, she should get the 25 points, quite frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. Should get a special award at the end of the season from the FIM and from Dorna. Let's keep our fingers crossed that we are going to get the race that we've all come here for, the first Grand Prix of Indonesia in 25 years. There you can see, though, at the bottom of your screens, the pit lane will not open before 15:45 local time.
The bigger issue we may have, in addition to the obvious issue, which is the quantity of rain that's falling, is the sunlight. It's due to get dark here around about 6:30, just before 6:30 local time. So we've got around 3 hours to play with before it starts to get dark here, and you just wouldn't be able to race even if it was bone dry. So we are going to get to the stage at some point where that does become a deciding factor. But of course, at the moment, still no reason to panic necessarily too yet. We've still got plenty of time for conditions to hopefully improve. And of course, with Moto 3 and Moto 2 having already raced earlier today, this is rather different to perhaps a scenario that might be coming to people's heads of Silverstone in 2018. We have only one more race to go. Marc Marquez was hoping to start it. And speaking to our colleagues at DAZN with Spanish TV, he's been speaking that he feels good, a little bit stunned, but he is okay. Of course, we saw Marc Marquez on his feet and, of course, heading to the hospital by the air ambulance, but under his own steam, on his own 2 feet. And we, of course, hope to see Marc Marquez back in action in 2 weeks' time when we return to Termas de Rio Hondo for the Argentinian Grand Prix, another circuit, much like the race that follows that, the Circuit of the Americas, for the Grand Prix of the Americas, 2 circuits that Marc Marquez has had great success at in the past.
Yeah, good to hear. Marc did make his way back to the paddock, and he was able to talk to Spanish TV, as Lewis said. He was stunned. We've all been stunned by his crash-strewn weekend in here. That bruising crash in the warm-up session this morning at turn 7, when he was violently flicked a good 15 feet in the air. I mean, it was one of the worst crashes I've ever seen, and I've been around in this MotoGP paddock since 1996. The good news, of course, was that Marc was relatively okay. He was concussed. The bad news rolled out of this Indonesian Grand Prix, which at the moment, unfortunately, has not yet got going. We are waiting patiently, as is the entire pit lane, hoping and praying that we will get the race action underway as soon as we possibly can. There's Razlan Razli, of course, from the With You RNF team. We just saw there Darren Binder looking as relaxed and as cool and calm as ever. Nothing will faze for the South African at all. Lynn Jarvis there looking on as well. Will Fabio Quartararo get the chance to start from that pole position? The 1:31.067 that he set, just over 24 hours ago now, as yet another big bolt of lightning illuminates the sky out of our commentary box position here. And then again, there's another big clap of thunder. Unfortunately, the forecasts were absolutely spot on. When we walked into the media centre this morning around 7:30 a.m. local time, the first journalist that came up to me went, "Hey Matt, you do realise that there's going to be thunderstorms at about 3 o'clock this afternoon?" And I was trying to be as optimistic as I possibly could and said, "Hey, yeah, but we know how quickly the weather can change in this part of the world." Sadly, for once, that forecast was absolutely bang on the money. Let's pop back down to pit lane again and talk to Simon Craig, who I'm delighted to say he's grabbed the quick word with Aussie Jack Miller. Down to you, Simon.
Jack, you're famous for being able to adapt quickly to changing conditions. Can you give us a bit of a run through how the weekend felt until now and what you're hoping for?
Yeah, the weekends felt all right. I mean, starting 9th on the grid definitely wasn't what I was after yesterday in qualifying, but that's where we are. And no, I mean, a lot of things have changed today. You know, we planned on the 27-lap race, but then that got knocked back, and then the rains come in, so that sort of changed our approach again. So, I mean, 27-lap race was going to be a big old survival race, I think, trying to manage the tyres and whatnot. 20 laps sort of brought it back into safe range, let's say, where you could be able to push a bit more. Now having wet, you know, this should stop pretty soon, and when it does stop, I'm assuming it's going to pull up pretty quickly. And yeah, the track won't dry completely, but I think some areas will become dry towards the end of the race. But no, fingers crossed it just stops now and we can get back underway.
Jack, thanks for your time. Good luck.
Mate, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Jack Miller, yeah, echoing the sentiments of all of us here in Indonesia. We do hope that we can get underway. If you are just tuning in, we have a delayed start. Fabio Quartararo is not obviously expecting any action soon. He's got back in his team clothing. Oh, dearie me. Terrible mistake. Was that his ice cream? Oh, dear. That's the first mistake Fabio Quartararo has made all weekend so far. That's a little bit of a red-faced moment for our pole man and our reigning world champion. Now, this lady is doing some sterling work now. She's been out on the grid. She is trying to banish away this rain. We sincerely hope it does work, as Fabio Quartararo makes his first mistake of the weekend, dropping his ice cream tub. Let's hope it's the only mistake he makes of the weekend as well. Nothing that the riders and the teams can do, of course. All they can do is wait patiently and hope that we do get a break in this torrential rain. Pre-race, it was looking very, very good for Ducati. They had 2 bikes on the front row. 4 bikes that qualified in the top 6, including round 1 winner, Enea Bastianini. We've already heard the thoughts of the Lenovo rider, Jack Miller. Let's pop back down to Simon, who's got sporting director Paolo Cibatti with him. Down to you.
Was very good during the test, but also for him, being on a 22 bike, he lost a little bit of confidence in Qatar, but he's gaining it back here. And as for Di Gianantonio, wow, Q2. So Fabio is also a rookie, which is doing very good. And obviously the Martin Zarco, we don't need to say much because they have been so strong all over last year, and they continue to be very, very strong here, starting from the first row. So I think we will have a wet race. I think it's probably in a way better for us because if they do a shorter race, 20 laps with Fabio Quartararo, I think it will be very difficult if he can get a good start because he had an impressive pace on dry conditions. But this conditioner, I think, will help us a little bit more. And then we see, obviously, rainy condition always a kind of risk and gamble. But all our riders are very comfortable in these conditions. So looking forward to the race.
Paolo, through testing, winter testing, it looked like you had found a faster engine, and Ducati never stopped developing. We see that. It looked also that the riders lost a bit of confidence, as you said. I can imagine soon that bike will be better than the 21 bike, but have you found the direction now, do you believe?
Yes, as you know, there are 3 different options of Ducati engines available this year. There is a 21 version, which is what the Gresini riders and Bezzecchi have. Then there is what we call hybrid version of 2022 with some features of a 21, and this is for the 2 factory riders. As spectators may know, the factory riders, you can choose one engine for both riders. On the independent team, you can use also different specs for different riders. But Jack and Pecco have this hybrid version, and then we have the 2 Pramac riders and Marini on the 22. I think the 22 showed here that is as good as. Hopefully, there is some room for improvement, but I think the main problem was because we were trying a system that was probably not yet mature, as you can say, to be used in the race. So once the riders, we decided to go back to something more standard. In Qatar, riders had lost a little bit of confidence. So I think here we went back to a more normal setup, and the results prove that this is the right direction. So we have time during the season to bring into the race something new.
Paolo, last question for you. In the future, I'm thinking if that engine is faster, the 22 engine, and we get to somewhere like Austria and you've had time to develop it, do you expect it to start to shine there?
As you know, once you make the choice, it's made for the whole season, no? So we have to stay with the selection that has been made. And obviously, we think, honestly, to be totally transparent, it's so difficult to improve an engine like the engine we were using last year, because it already reached a very high level of performances. So obviously, engineers always try to do a little bit better, but sometimes the difference is really small. So it goes back to the feeling of the rider on that engine more than on the actual performance.
Paolo, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks to Ducati Lenovo team manager Paolo Ciabatti with Simon Crafar. We just saw there is the president of Indonesia. That's how big this event is for the nation of Indonesia, Mr. Joko Widodo, present, hopefully to see some Premier Class race action here. The local announcers are doing their best to keep the fans entertained. We've just heard them there, I think, just singing the national anthem. Of course, this was a man who rode with 20 riders on that special parade in Jakarta, which Lewis attended. Gave us a real insight and a real flavour into just how popular MotoGP is in this part of the world. It's great to have Mr. Widodo here present for what we hope is going to be a landmark and milestone day for Indonesian motorsport. A landmark day, of course, for MotoGP as well. We've talked about how Spain is kind of the European heartbeat of the championship. I think very much the rest of the world heartbeat for MotoGP is very much in this Southeast Asian nation. They love their motorcycle racing. Marc Marquez flags waving. Unfortunately, when we do get underway here in Lombok, we will not see Marquez in action. Gotta say, they're doing a pretty good job of keeping up their spirits, Lewis, here, because we've had a pretty lengthy delay. We should have been underway in MotoGP nearly half an hour ago now, but the crowd are still enjoying their day out.
Yeah, I guess they'll say if we've had to wait 25 years for Grand Prix motorcycle racing in the Premier Class to return to this country, what's another couple of hours? Pol Espargaro starting. Well, when we got on the plane to fly out here to Indonesia, we certainly didn't expect Pol Espargaro to be lining up 16th on the grid for this Grand Prix. Of course, the changes to the tyres, Michelin bringing this stiffer construction of tyre, the different casing to deal with the heat that we were expecting here in dry conditions, has certainly caught Repsol Honda out. Pol Espargaro was fastest on 2 of the 3 days at the pre-season test here back in February. Really, really competitive in just about every condition on all days. But Espargaro, once we arrived here in Indonesia, hasn't been able to enjoy the same kind of feeling at this Grand Prix and was rather critical of Michelin. Of course, Michelin having to make a decision based on the 3 days of data that they had at the test and decided that they had to bring this different casing of the rear tyre. They were fearful of the heat and of blisters causing them some real problems. We had track temperatures mid-60s centigrade on Thursday here at the Pertamina Mandalika circuit, so you can understand why Michelin were a little bit concerned and a little bit cautious. But Pol Espargaro was saying that their bike simply wasn't made for tyres like the ones that we have here that haven't been run since Buriram in 2018, and it simply caught Repsol Honda out.
Yeah, just a little update from some of our Indonesian colleagues who've been messaging a media WhatsApp group that the MotoGP media keep involved in. And apparently that lady who we saw on the grid was what they call in these parts of the world a rain handler. It's a term for people in Indonesian society who are believed to be able to control the rain or the weather. Generally, Rain handlers control the weather by moving clouds. They service they usually use for big events such as weddings, musics and concerts. Well, let's hope the rain handlers manage to handle this weather. That's a great embrace between two men who've done so much together to bring this sport that we love to a country that loves our sport, MotoGP. Dorna CEO, of course, Carmelo Espeleta, embracing and having a conversation here with Mr. Joko Widodo, the President of the Republic of Indonesia. These two men, of course, have worked tirelessly behind the scenes for weeks, months and years to bring MotoGP back to Indonesia. There were two Indonesian Grand Prix at the Sentul circuit near Jakarta back in 1996 and 1997. Popularity of MotoGP in Southeast Asia has ballooned and rocketed over the last 20 years or so. I remember going to Malaysia and Sepang when Sepang was first built back in 1999. They struggled to get 10,000 fans through the gate. Now you can get 150,000 fans coming to Sepang. It's always great to have international races, to bring the sport to new audiences, to bring the sport to where they love MotoGP. Of course, we race in Thailand, we race in Malaysia, we race in Japan, in this part of the world, and we're hoping that we get to race in Indonesia in 2022 as well. Stick with us, be patient.
It's been one of the regrets, hasn't it, amongst many of the last 2 or 3 years, of course, with COVID-19, of course. Our hearts go out to everyone who's been affected over the course of this pandemic, but of course it's prevented MotoGP to coming to places like Sepang, and of course we're waiting later in the year to go to Motegi and to Buriram, as well as you mentioned, and Phillip Island. Very, very popular venues with very, very passionate support, where we're hoping to be able to return to later in the year.
Has Fabio Quartararo stolen your flip-flops there, Lewis?
It's the right size feet, I have to say.
He does like the old rascal clobber.
Yeah, although I think given the size of my feet, my shoes more represent or resemble canoes, which would be quite useful actually in conditions such as these. Yeah. I think I'd be well set.
Get your flippers and your snorkel out. I think that's what you need.
Well, here's an onboard lap with the difference then of the Pertamina Mandalika circuit. You're inside the safety car heading into turn 1. You can see on screen the standing water still on the circuit. It's difficult to really tell from this camera angle whether the conditions are easing or not. Just popped out of the commentary box around 10 minutes ago and the rain was still falling very heavily indeed. Of course, they're trying to clear some of the water, do whatever they can, of course, so that once conditions, if they do improve to the stage where we can go racing, the track conditions don't take too long to sweep up and clear some of that standing water away. So they're really working round the clock here to keep the track in as good a condition as possible. So once we do get notice that a race start could be possible, that quick restart procedure, that 15-minute start procedure can be commenced.
Yeah, I'm trying to remain optimistic, Lewis, as we always do in the commentary box here in MotoGP, but all those hills that we could see off in the distance around this magnificent Mandalika circuit, at the moment you can't see them, such is the heavy cloud cover. The local authorities and the local organisation, as we said, they're doing their best to keep the fans entertained in the grandstands. This is Franco Ancini and Loris Capirossi.
Yeah, we've spoken about the passionate support that they have for MotoGP in this part of the world. They also take it as a great source of pride as well for MotoGP to be visiting this part of the world. We mentioned earlier on, the welcome from the locals here has been absolutely second to none. They really have embraced the arrival of MotoGP in this part of the world. You can see the excitement on your screens there. They really do live for this stuff.
Yeah, I never thought I'd come to a MotoGP race in Indonesia on a stunning island like Lombok and go out for dinner the first night like we did as a big group, Lewis, to a Mexican restaurant where I was being talked in a Cockney slang by one of the waiters. His Cockney was better than mine, to be honest. Top man. As you say, we've had such a fantastic reception here in Indonesia. It's a long, long wait that we've had to endure before the World Championship came here 25 years ago. That's such a long time ago. That was my second season in the paddock, 1997. Blimey, I was a whippersnapper back then, 24 years of age. I feel like a proper old man now.
So I wonder what the debrief will be then as they return to the pit lane. Of course, we're expecting perhaps the next update very, very shortly.
Well, it's a bad sign, isn't it? You can just see the pace of those windscreen wipers on the BMW safety car. That gives you an indication of just how strong the rainfall is still falling. Franco Ancini and Loris Capirossi, they've done a fair few laps out there already, haven't they? So there's a further update then that's just filtering through from race direction. Initially, the pit lane wasn't going to be open before 15:45 local time. It's now 15:36. That's been pushed back by a further 15 minutes at least. The pit lane will not open before 4 p.m. local time now. So that's about another 24, 23 minutes away. As we say, we'll keep our fingers crossed that by that stage of proceedings, there will have been some break in this weather, and we will finally be helped to hear those 300 horsepower MotoGP bikes fire up and power around what will be a wet Mandalika circuit. But let's hope that these fans get what they've come to see. This man fighting hard to retain his MotoGP World Championship crown.
Fabio Quartararo's changed into his civvies, so he's not expecting a restart anytime soon. Of course, he's got half an hour to play with as the Indonesian fans start to show us some of the moves. Whether that's a dance move or whether he's simulating twisting the throttle of a motorcycle, I'm not entirely sure. But either way, some quality dad dancing to fill your time, and it's certainly entertaining. Fabio Quartararo, I'm not sure whether he's going to engage in a dance-off with this guy. He is a little bit. He's showing some of his own moves.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Fabio loving it. We're certainly loving it. That's going to help ease the tension and ease the stress that will inevitably going around it. Yeah, you're famous. You've had your moment in the spotlight here in Mandalika. He's got some moves, that guy, hasn't he? There's nothing going to dampen the enthusiasm of that man
laying
there
down the gauntlet,
in
isn't
the
he?
blue T-shirt. Can we have a dance?